Black boy kicked out by his parents, thrown out like he didn't matter. He survived on scraps until a stranger saved him. Now he's back, richer than the family who tossed him aside. They came begging with excuses, but he already knew the truth, and what he told them next froze the entire room. Before we go any further, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Now let's begin. The night Khaled Mercer was pushed out started quiet, too quiet. The kind that made the house feel like it was holding its breath. He stood at the top of the stairs listening to his parents whisper, their voices sharp and tired. Something in his chest tightened. He already knew his name was about to come up. It always did when bills piled up. His father finally called him down. The man didn't yell. That almost made it worse. He just pointed at the cracked front door and said, "We can't do this anymore. You're too much. You need to go make your own life." Khaled blinked at him, waiting for the punchline. None came. His mother stood behind his father, rubbing her arms like the room had turned cold. Her eyes never rose to meet his. That stung more than the words. A small trash bag hit the floor near his feet. 3 shirts, 1 pair of socks, nothing else. The living room smelled like reheated noodles. The overhead bulb flickered, buzzing like it wanted to escape. Outside, the porch light cast a weak yellow ring on the steps. Snow drifted sideways, brushing against the door frame. Khaled hesitated, hoping one of them would stop him. Nobody moved. He stepped out. The cold slapped his face so fast his eyes watered. Behind him, the door clicked shut, quiet and final. A neighbor across the street glanced over while locking his car, eyebrows raised like he had seen this play out before. He didn't step in. He just shook his head and muttered, "That boy's got no luck." Khaled walked toward the corner, hugging his arms against his thin jacket. His breath came out in fast clouds. His fingers burned, then faded numb. A car rolled by slow, the driver staring at him through a fogged window before speeding up. The sidewalks were empty. Even the dogs inside nearby homes stayed silent. Halfway down the block, he sat on a curb, legs trembling. He wiped his nose with the back of his hand, barely feeling the skin. Snowflakes gathered on his hair. He looked back at the dark house. No movement, no curtain shift, nothing that suggested he had ever lived there. He pushed himself up and kept walking. His shoes soaked through within minutes, squishing with each step. A group of teens passed him near the gas station. One of them nudged his friend and whispered, "Kid's lost." They laughed softly, not cruel, just detached, like he was already a stranger. By the time he reached the closed grocery store, Khaled could barely feel his feet. A warm vent near the sidewall hissed softly. He crouched beside it, stealing whatever heat could. The metal smelled like rust and old oil. It didn't matter. It was the only kindness the night offered. He closed his eyes and tried to breathe steady, telling himself he just needed until morning. Just survive this one night. He didn't know it yet, but this was the last moment his old life would ever touch him. Everything ahead would be built from this cold, from this silence, from this final walk into the dark. Morning didn't bring comfort, it just exposed how rough the night had been. Khaled woke beside the grocery store vent with a stiff neck and frozen fingertips. His clothes held the smell of warm dust and old metal. A delivery guy unloading crates glanced at him, paused, then kept working like seeing a kid curled beside a wall was normal. Khaled stood slowly, knees shaky. Hunger punched him hard. He pressed a hand to his stomach, trying to calm the cramp. Snow crunched under his shoes as he walked toward the back of the plaza. A dumpster lid hung open. Steam drifted out from leftover bread, still warm from the bakery inside. He hesitated only a second, then grabbed a half-crushed roll. It tasted like cardboard, but he ate it anyway. A woman loading groceries into her trunk caught sight of him. She whispered to her husband, "That kid looks like trouble." The man shrugged without looking. Their car pulled away, leaving a trail of exhaust that stung his nose. By midday, the wind cut sharper. Khaled kept moving to stay warm. He passed a bus shelter where 2 older teens huddled inside, speaking in low voices. One of them pointed at Khaled with his chin. "Another stray," he said. Not cruel, not kind, just calling what he saw. Khaled walked faster. The city felt bigger when you had no place inside it. Every doorway he passed looked inviting for a second, then turned cold when someone inside stared at him too long. People like distance. He felt it with every step. Near the repair shop he had fainted beside days before, a mechanic tossed a bag of trash into a bin. The man's hands were stained, with oil, sleeves rolled up despite the cold. Khaled slowed, dizzy. His vision dipped. The mechanic noticed the sway and stepped closer. "Hey," he said, voice steady. "You okay?" Khaled tried to answer, but his tongue felt thick. He leaned against the wall, breathing shallow. The man crouched slightly, scanning him. "How long since you ate?" Khaled didn't know. The mechanic muttered something under his breath, then opened the side door. "Come on, you're freezing." Khaled hesitated, waiting for a trick, a catch. None came. The mechanic walked inside without looking back, leaving the door cracked open. Warm air and the smell of engine grease drifted out. Khaled stepped in. The shop felt alive with clanks and soft humming machinery. A single space heater rattled in the corner. The man grabbed a chair and guided him into it. "Name's Daniel," he said while grabbing a small pot from a shelf. He poured leftover soup into a dented pan and placed it on a portable burner. "Sit still. You look like you're running on fumes." Khaled watched him move around, noticing small details. The slight limp in Daniel's left leg, the quick glances he shot toward the boy, checking if he was still upright. The way he kept his voice low, almost cautious, like he didn't want to scare him off. When the soup warmed, Daniel handed it over. "Careful, it's hot." The bowl shook in Khaled's hands. The first sip sent heat through his chest. His shoulders dropped with relief he didn't realize he had been holding. Daniel saw it and exhaled softly. "You got somewhere to be?" he asked. Khaled shook his head. "Anyone looking for you?" He shook his head again. Daniel leaned back against the workbench, crossing his arms. "Miss, then stay here for a bit. Warm up, no pressure." Outside, a car honked. Inside, the heater hummed. For the first time since being thrown out, Khaled wasn't fighting against the world. He wasn't fully safe, but at least he wasn't alone in the cold. His breath steadied. His fingers stopped trembling. He didn't know Daniel's story yet, and Daniel didn't ask for his. But something in the man's quiet concern made Khaled feel like maybe, just maybe, this wasn't another temporary kindness. Something was shifting, slow and real. He didn't know it yet, but this moment was the beginning of the life that would build him. Khaled stayed in the shop longer than he planned. The heater's low buzz felt like a barrier between him and the cold world outside. Daniel worked on a stalled sedan. While keeping one eye on him, the man didn't ask questions, didn't dig, didn't pity him. That silence made the room feel safer. After finishing the soup, Khaled set the empty bowl down carefully. His fingers still shook. Daniel noticed and wiped his hands on a rag before speaking. "You can sleep in the back if you need to. Floor is rough, but it's warm." Khaled nodded. His throat tightened with something he couldn't name. The back room smelled like old rubber and metal shavings. There was a thin mattress pushed against the wall. Daniel tossed him a worn blanket. "Try that. Better than the snow." Khaled sat, pulling the blanket over his legs. The mattress dipped in weird places, but compared to concrete, it felt like luxury. As he settled, he saw a framed picture on a shelf. A younger Daniel holding a fishing rod with someone who looked like a brother. Dust coated the frame. Khaled looked away out of respect. Later, he heard Daniel in the front room talking to a customer. The man's voice was calm and polite. No stress, no rush. When the customer left, Daniel walked back, lowering himself into a chair with a soft groan. "You like computers?" he asked. Khaled nodded. Daniel pointed toward an old laptop sitting crooked on a desk. "Found that behind the warehouse last year. Doesn't start, but you can look at it if you want." Khaled got up slowly, walked to the desk, and pressed the power button. Nothing. He checked the cable, wiggled it, then removed the back panel. Dust fell out in small clumps. He cleared it with the edge of his sleeve. Daniel watched him with a small smirk. Kids got instincts. After a few minutes, the laptop flickered. The screen glowed faint blue. Khaled's eyes widened. Something warm rose in his chest. Daniel chuckled under his breath. "That's your win. Keep it." Khaled blinked. Really? Daniel shrugged. You fixed it. You earned it. That night, Khaled stayed in the back room scrolling through old coding tutorials. The screen flickered every few minutes, but it held. He felt a strange mix of hope and fear, like touching something fragile. Around midnight, he stepped into the shop for water. He found Daniel eating canned beans straight from the tin. The man paused when he saw Khaled. Food's tight, Daniel said. Don't mind me. But Khaled saw it. Daniel had eaten half. He clearly planned to save the rest. The next morning, Daniel handed him a plate with toast and eggs. Khaled frowned. Did you eat? Daniel quickly looked away. That was the answer. Days turned into weeks. The shop became a rhythm. Khaled swept floors, organized tools, and helped customers rye parts. Daniel taught him small repairs, how to listen for engine knocks, how to smell burnt oil, how to use hands instead of guesses. At night, Khaled fixed broken electronics people left behind. A college kid dropped off a cracked tablet and muttered, "If you fix it, keep it." Word spread. People started bringing old devices. Daniel just shook his head and laughed. Look at you building something without even trying. Khaled grew more comfortable. Though he still spoke little, the hurt from his parents remained, but the shop softened it. Daniel never tried to replace them. He just showed up every day, steady, dependable, real. One evening, a neighbor walked past the open garage and whispered to her friend, "That boy's lucky. Daniel doesn't take people in." The friend nodded with surprise. Must be something special about him. Khaled heard it. A small warmth settled in his chest, quiet and grounding. Winter turned into spring. Khaled's coding skills sharpened. He built small apps on the shaky laptop. Daniel encouraged every project with a nod or a simple nice work. No praise, no speeches, just belief. Khaled didn't know it yet, but the foundation of his future was forming inside that dusty garage between the hum of machines and the quiet loyalty of the man who fed him before feeding himself. By the time Khaled turned 19, the garage felt more like a quiet base than a temporary shelter. He worked part-time with Daniel, saved every dollar, and coded late into the night. The old laptop still flickered, but it never quit on him. Neither did Daniel. One evening, while testing a small fraud detection script he built for fun, Khaled leaned back in the chair and rubbed his eyes. The code caught errors faster than he expected. It flagged patterns most cheap tools ignored. He stared at the results, heartbeat picking up. Something about it felt bigger than a side project. Daniel walked in, wiping grease off his cheek. "You're staring like that screen just confessed to a crime." Khaled smirked. It kind of did. Daniel stepped behind him, squinting at the numbers. He had no idea what they meant, but he nodded anyway. "Looks sharp, keep going." That small vote of confidence pushed Khaled harder. The next months felt like a grind. Early shifts, coding marathons, energy drinks, cold pizza. He took online courses, messaged tech mentors, learned how to pitch ideas. His confidence grew slow, like muscle built in silence. One day, a local business owner visited the shop. He complained about identity scams hitting his clients. Khaled listened carefully, then asked a few questions. Daniel watched him from the side, arms crossed, a hint of pride hiding behind the usual seriousness. Later, Khaled returned to his laptop and improved the script. He tested it on public data sets. The results shocked him. His tool caught fraud patterns most small firms missed. He felt that familiar jolt in his chest, the same one he felt the day the laptop first powered on. A week later, he submitted his prototype to a small tech expo. He walked into the building wearing clean jeans and the same jacket he had owned for years. Everyone else wore crisp shirts and polished shoes. He ignored the stares. He set up his booth quietly, hands shaking as he arranged the laptop. Visitors passed by, some intrigued, some dismissive. One investor stopped, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She read his pitch sheet, looked at the data, then said, "Walk me through this." Khaled explained his model, his logic, his approach. She asked tough questions. He answered each one steadily. Sweat rolled down his back, but he held his ground. When he finished, she nodded. "You built this alone?" "Yeah," he said. "What do you want to do with it?" He swallowed. "Scale it, make it real." 2 weeks later, she called. Her firm flew him out to San Francisco. The plane cabin smelled like coffee and recycled air. The city felt loud and bright, buildings rising like promises he never imagined for himself. He pitched again, this time in a glass conference room with men tapping pens and women scrolling through market reports. He waited for rejection. Instead, the head of the firm closed his notebook and said, "We are offering 20 million." Khaled sat frozen. His throat tightened. His mind flashed back to the grocery store vent, the dumpster bread. The nights Daniel gave him the last can of soup without hesitation. He signed the papers with steady hands. When he stepped out of the building, the sunlight hit him warm across the face. He called Daniel immediately. Daniel picked up on the second ring. "How'd it go?" the man asked, voice casual like he expected nothing. Khaled inhaled. "We did it." Daniel chuckled. "You did it. I just gave you a heater and bad coffee." Khaled's voice shook. "You gave me everything." When he returned home, the local paper ran a small headline about the young founder who sold an AI startup for a fortune. People whispered in grocery stores. Kids pointed at him on sidewalks. The city treated him like someone new. But the first stop he made was the garage. Daniel stood there with a rag over his shoulder, pretending nothing changed. Khaled walked in and hugged him without warning. Daniel froze, then patted his back awkwardly. "Easy," he muttered. "You'll make me spill my tools." Khaled laughed for the first time in years. A full, honest laugh. He didn't know it yet, but success was about to pull an old chapter back into the light, one he thought was already buried. The visit happened 3 days after the deal. Khaled was in the garage helping Daniel sort old parts when a soft knock echoed from the entrance. Daniel glanced over, expecting a customer, but his expression shifted when he saw who stood there. A man and woman hesitated at the doorway. Older now, shoulders slumped, eyes tired. Khaled froze, his breath caught in his chest before he even turned fully toward them. His mother stepped forward first. "Khaled," she whispered, voice trembling, "we heard the news." His father nodded slowly. "You made something of yourself. We always knew you would." Khaled felt a sting behind his ribs, the same house smell, the same faces that shut a door on him. He stayed still, hands at his sides. They tried again. "We pushed you out because we wanted you to grow," his father said. "We thought it would toughen you." Khaled let the silence stretch. Snow fell outside in soft flakes, the cold air slipping into the doorway. Daniel watched quietly from the workbench, jaw tight. Khaled finally spoke. "You didn't make me stronger. You made me homeless." His mother's eyes glossed. "We made mistakes. We want another chance." Khaled shook his head slowly. "I forgave you a long time ago, but I don't owe you a place in my life." His father swallowed hard. "So that's it." Khaled stepped, pet aside, and gestured calmly toward the exit. "Yes." They left without another word, walking into the pale afternoon light shadows fading into snow. Daniel exhaled behind him. "You all right?" Khaled turned to him. His voice softened. "You're my family, not them." Daniel looked away, blinking faster than usual. "Come on, we still have work." Khaled smiled, a quiet, steady smile. His new life wasn't built from the people who left him. It was built with the man who stayed, the man who fed him when he had nothing, the man who gave him room to rise. And as he returned to the workbench, the warmth in his chest felt stronger than any fortune he had earned. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that loyalty is earned, not claimed. Follow for more powerful stories about resilience, justice, and the people who rise from nothing.